Welcome all of you, the viewers of Poland Daily Culture. We are back in the Royal Castle in Warsaw. Did you know that the Royal Castle has its own chapel? Here with us is Dr. Paweł Figurski, historian and also an expert in the Center for the Thought of John Paul II. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And we will be talking about John Paul II, Polish Pope, the figure of huge impact on, I would say, every sphere in Polish culture, because starting from the social aspect to theologian aspect, but also he influenced a lot of young people, but also he had his impact in art. Here in the Royal Castle, there's an exhibition devoted to John Paul II. So let's start from the very beginning. We know that he wanted to be an actor, but he didn't become one. What happened and what are his connections to art?
Actually, one could say that he was an artist throughout his career, also as a priest, as a bishop, and then as the Pope. Of course, he wasn't a professional artist and he wasn't a professional poet, but still, he, in his writings, in his deeds, he continued this performance of an artist, a man who creates something that extends the human experience, that seeks truth, seeks beauty. Actually, one could argue that he continued to perform this artistic work, but in a different sense. Of course, he did not become an actor, he did not become a professional poet. He decided, as we all know, for the priestly vocation amidst the most turbulent times in his personal life, after the death of his father, when he remained alone in Krakow, bombarded by and controlled by the Nazi German troops who took over Poland. And amidst all this crisis, he decided to change his vocation into priesthood.
So he wanted to be an actor. He had a huge flair for acting, for speaking. I would say that this everything what he learned is in his youth. We can also observe later in his speeches, because they are not only very deep in thoughts, which of course it's true, but also they are very oratically, they are very well said. That's why they also have such a huge impact on us, because he just knew how to do it. But this shift from being an actor, from wanting to be an actor to being a priest, when did it happen and with what kind of circumstances were around?
So this is also linked to his artistic activity, as one can say, based on the memoirs of his friends who were active together in the so-called Rhapsodic Theater. It was a theater, a kind of resistant movement. Instead of taking up arms and going to battle the Nazi Germans, on the street, he and his fellows decided to fight for Polish culture. Amidst those turbulent times, they created a Rhapsodic Theater, a theater that was devoted to changing the external circumstances with the world, with the culture. And one of the memoirs preserved narrate the history of his performance of a drama written by Słowacki, a romantic 19th century author, who wrote a bit perplexed drama on the so-called king spirit. And the role that John Paul II took in this performance was of the King Boleslav. King Boleslav, a Polish king of the 11th century, who in the hagiographic tradition killed the bishop Stanisław, bishop of Krakow, one of his own bishops. And John Paul II, while performing the scene and saying the words of the king, who is full of passion, full of anger, full of self-consciousness, performed it in a way that he convinced the audience and his fellow friends to the vision of history, to the reasons expressed by the king Boleslav. And about 2 weeks later, he performed it again in a totally different way. He was not full of passion. He was without his temper. He read this scene as a confession of King Boleslav, who is admitting that he committed sin, and it was kind of his confession. And this dramatic change triggered puzzlement amidst his friends, who didn't know why he changed such a wonderful performance of the mighty king full of anger to a very dispassionate expression of his deeds against Bishop Stanislav. And he explained that he read the scene differently, as a confession of the king, but in the course, within those few weeks, he also decided to become a priest and change his career from explicitly artistic one into creating something more divine, to become a priest.
So basically, he took the side of Saint Stanisław, who is this Polish saint, a patron of Poland, but also who is a figure of controversy because historians dispute whether the right was Bolesław or Stanisław, who was truly behaving and doing things in favor of Polish state or not. And John Paul II decided for the bishop, for St. Stanisław, change his career. So he gave up being an artist and this path for becoming a priest. And his amazing path started just with basically studying theology at the very beginning.
So this change occurred in him in this few weeks was an effect of a long-lasting discernment and vocation, the call that he must have already experienced before. But it's true that then it was this final moment that he took to enter the seminary that was in the kind of underground seminary in Krakow of Archbishop Prince Sapiecha. And in a sense, like, he did not opt for the Saint Stanislav part while reciting this drama, but reinterpreted Slovacki's poem and the figure of the King Spirit, who is a very puzzling figure in this drama. We maybe won't go as deep. So he entered the clandestine seminary of Archbishop Prince Sapiecha and continued his not officially artistic career, but he was an artist of the spirit, so to speak. And of course, as you mentioned, he was building up in his later career on this experience in the Rhapsodic Theater and on his love for art, which is manifested in this exhibition at the Royal Castle in a very spectacular way, bringing also the masterpieces from Vatican.
Did you know that John Paul II, at the very beginning of his career, wanted to be an actor and then shifted and changed and joined the seminary? If you want to learn a little bit more about his career and art connected to the Pope, stay with us for another episode, and thank you very much for watching Poland Daily Culture.